Hi there folks, Simmon here. Welcome to another Intermediate Invitational Tournament match, this time between ManaT and Reid. ManaT is the creator of the TAC bot in the Discord server that allows players to play asynchronously right in the Discord. Reid is also the lead editor of the TAC Times and part of the USTA board and also the director of this tournament, though he was subbed in for Matthew Hinton after that cheating debacle. But this should be a pretty solid game. They're both good players. My money's on ManaT. He's also in my fantasy team, though, so I'm a little bit biased. But anyway, let's get right into this tournament match. Game 1 between ManaT and Reid starting now. ManaT in white and Reid in black. And we get the first placement in A1 as usual. Adjacent corners, going for that standard mirrored opening that we see so often. Both players playing very quickly. Reid doing a slightly different opening here. Instead of building across, gives that opening for white to drop that capstone, strong capstone placement. That's mostly why that sort of deviation here isn't played too often, because it does give a really good capstone placement for white. We do see some placements up in here, trying to build that checkerboardish action. Doesn't want black to build too strong of a position here. All right, so we do see B1 placed. Black still building along this line, trying to cut off, perhaps, the line from white, but also trying to build for that vertical line for themselves. C1 placed. This builds that connection for white, trying to build that vertical road. Placing up at D6 would be attack threat. Black might want to respond before that becomes a possibility here. Potentially building off here onto E3, that would work. Instead, dropping a capstone here at B4, I'm not quite sure that I like that one, because we're likely going to see B3 move over onto C3, and then black will be forced to place something up here, make a capture, and then this capstone is a little bit more isolated than black would like. I did think about the possibility of black placing a capstone here, and that would have worked, I think. I think that would have been fine in this spot. It could have been isolated a little bit, but then black fills in and it's fine. So now we have to see a capture from black in order to stop this road threat from white. Potentially, this capstone coming down onto B3, that would stop the attack threat. Black taking his time, trying to figure out what the optimal move is here. Fairly early on in the game. We definitely do see that ManaT has been playing quite quickly here, still above that 15-minute mark, which was the starting time. They do have 10-second increment per move, which means they get 10 seconds every time they finish a move added to their time. They are playing with the correct time controls. Did want to make sure about that, because we have seen some matches so far in the tournament be playing with the wrong time controls. Luckily, that's not the case here. We do see black make that capture from D2 up to D3. That does cut off that vertical road threat of white. but there is some possibility here of white building around, perhaps here, and coming across and recapturing that position. Let's see who has the momentum here. No, white instead making that capture initially, trying to isolate this capstone a little bit more. This is not a attack threat yet, but it will be momentarily. Black trying to figure out what to do here in order to stop this. I think that the move might be a self-capture with the capstone on top of c4. While that doesn't seem like a great move here, maybe a little unintuitive, it does work quite well in stopping potential future threats. But he does want to keep that black capstone here. He wants to keep this vertical line so he can keep building towards it. He does not have momentum, however, white does have the momentum here. I do think a self-capture is probably the way to go. But it's hard to say. There are a few responses from white that would be pretty strong. Black again taking more time here. ManaT still above that 15-minute mark. Black dropping a wall right away, ready to recapture this stack should white come over with this stack. White can probably play here at e3 and create that threat yet again and force this wall to come up and capture. Not quite sure if he wants that to happen though. Probably doesn't want this wall to come up because then it could really do a number on his line here. But this wall was actually a pretty solid play. I was thinking about the self-capture with the capstone, and that would have worked really well. But I think that this wall might work better. Granted, it doesn't help his flat count too much. We do see that white does have 6 on the board for flats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now 5. And black sitting at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flats. So they are even because of that self-capture of that white capstone. This is a dangerous position here for black. Black has to do some work in the next couple moves to make sure white doesn't score a Tinue. White, again, was fairly quick to move there. It did take less than a minute to make that move. The longest he's taken so far to make a decision. As noted, ManaT did create the TACbot in the Discord server. The TACbot is the way to play asynchronous games in Discord with other people. It is a really, really neat addition that we have to the Discord server, and it's a lot of fun. And it's a great way to get these games in over a few days instead of playing on a timed match like we have here in the tournament. It allows you to, take a day maybe to make a move. You can play, 5 minutes a day to try to figure out what to do. And then Reid also, as mentioned, is the editor for the TAC Times. He's the one who set all of that up and publishes great articles. There are some new ones out recently even. Ooh, and we do see that self-capture from the capstone now coming on this turn. sort of abandoning this vertical line because he really has to deal with this vertical line of white if he wants to make sure that that he doesn't get stuck in a tinue situation. And it would have been quite close, I believe, to tinue had he moved the wall up instead of moving that capstone over. ManaT taking his time trying to figure out how to deal with this. I'm going to build down below, and this does a couple things, and I like this. So with a placement here at e2 on the next turn, that is attack threat for white. Also, capturing over is attack threat here at c2. But then he's also building along here. If he can play a d1 next, he can build for this horizontal threat. So this placement here at e1 is actually pretty strong because it helps him in a number of different ways. Depending on how black reacts to it, white can change the direction that they are focusing on. So they've got sort of 3 different ways to look at this right now. And I like that. A lot of variability here. Let's see. And we do see black trying to build up their own threat, building along vertically, maybe also cutting off that horizontal line that white looks like they're trying to build. This is the attack threat I was mentioning before, playing at a2. Throwing this capstone across does make a road, and black has to respond to that in some way. I think the best way to deal with that would be moving this capstone stack, the whole stack, over onto d4, as that would clear that little bit up and cut that off, but also not really ruin what he's got going on with that capstone ready to smash down here onto b4. So we can continue to build, maybe here at b5, then b6 to make that road threat to throw that stack over, but also be able to cut off this vertical threat of white at the same time. And that'll shift momentum, I believe, in black's direction. Let's see. Capturing over. White places here. Place at b5. Then white places here. No, it would still be momentum for white, but then he can cut that off with a road. And then, yeah, okay. So, yeah, he could get momentum, but it wouldn't be automatic with that capstone movement. White may have been thinking, oh, maybe I can sneak this by him and he won't see this attack threat. But indeed, black does see the attack threat. White's going to have to change directions here, kind of figure out what to do, potentially by dropping a flat stone here at e3 and then up here at e4. That might be what he wants to do here. Black did decide to leave behind a black flat here. I'm not quite sure if I agree with that, but yeah, we'll see. So we do see white now building down below here at c2. This isn't continuing the attack threat immediately, but a placement here at c5 would continue that attack threat. I think black probably needs to play here at c5 to keep that from happening. Anticipating your opponent's moves helps you to stop them from doing what they want to do, and forcing things to go into your favor and forcing them to think on their feet, maybe take a little bit more time. As we do see, there is 6 minutes separating these two players. ManaT just at 13 minutes 20 seconds, Reid at 7 minutes and 10 seconds, thereabouts. Black instead deciding to play at e3. Interesting choice. I believe we're going to see a c5 placement from white here. That would be a attack threat that black would need to respond to. Likely by moving that wall over onto c2. That would be this wall. Moving over to c2 is how black would likely respond to this threat of c5. And it looks like that is what happens here. White now going to have to shift directions, potentially placing here up at e4, maybe following that up with an e5. That way you can toss this over to make that same threat from earlier. But now black can make attack threat on this turn if it's not blocked by white by placing here at b4. This would be a horizontal attack threat, placing here at f3, finishing that road. So white's going to have to do something about that because black does now have the momentum in this game. Momentum, one of those terms that I talked about in the TAC University video. I say that because I'm assuming I'm going to make a term video for TAC University, but since this is being published in the future, I'm just guessing that that's going to have come out by then. Maybe I'll make a momentum video, and that's what I'll tag here. White now building in this b4 spot, and that is cutting off that opportunity that black had to build that flat stone right there and create that horizontal road. This also is not attack threat, but it is a move that could help in the future for white capturing over here onto c4. So instead, black is now going to have to think ahead, maybe decide to play up here at b5, or maybe play at f3. But I think that a b5 play would be a lot stronger in this position. We do see the time difference, ManaT at just under 12 minutes and Reid at 6.5 minutes. Does play at that b5 position. Currently not a attack threat. What will we see from these next few moves? If white does capture with b4 over here to c4, that is attack threat, smashing this wall down below at c2 with this hard capstone. That would be a road. So capturing over would create that attack threat. Black might be too blind to see that and decide to place up here at b6 maybe and try to continue that road threat. If they do, that would be a loss, but I doubt that's going to happen. Reid has been taking his time each move, trying to make the best one possible and not miss anything. Right before the game began, ManaT did also say, "Get ready for me to miss some Tinue." So he is not too confident, but I'm confident in ManaT's abilities. I did put him in my fantasy TAC team, after all, for this tournament. So let's hope he performs well, or at least I'm going to hope he performs well. So we do get a placement here at a3 from white, which is interesting, as that doesn't create any sort of threat, but it does look like he might be building towards a horizontal threat here, potentially building down at d1 or d2 on the next couple turns, and then being able to capture down and then make this smash move. This also helps because he can, in the future, cut off anything black does with any sort of capture by capturing over onto b3, and keeps black from placing over here at b3 to continue up on this vertical line on a different column. So I actually like that play at a3. Black now deciding to build over here at f3. This is a attack threat. Capturing down onto b4 with b5 would be a road. So black is going to have to do something about that. May decide to capture over with b4 onto c4. That would also be a attack threat for white, while also cutting off that attack threat from black. unless white decides to come down with b4 onto b3 instead, going for that horizontal threat of their own. Though that would just be renewed immediately by black by placing here at b4, so I don't think that's going to be the move. I think b4 to the right is probably going to be the move here from white. I don't think we'll see an e2 plus, though that would cut off that threat. It is a possibility. Either way, a capture has to be made here because there is no placement, whether flat or wall, that could stop it. Instead, we do see the capstone come over this whole stack, coming over on top of this one. Wow, big move here. This retains that hard capstone, very strong position, stops that immediate attack threat, doesn't make any attack threat of their own, but I believe that's going to be changing quite soon. Really strong positioning here. I feel like if black doesn't do something soon, white is going to move this whole stack over here onto e3 and make this two-pronged threat. That two-pronged threat will be pretty strong. Okay, that is a attack threat placing here at e4. I think we might see this move over onto e3. If this whole stack moves onto e3, he's got a road threat going up and going over at the same time. However, or does he? No, just going up. Wouldn't have it going over because it's too many. Okay, so that wouldn't be a two-pronged threat. Either way, this wall being tossed over here would stop that. So there is going to have to be something done about this threat here at e4. So white's going to have to stop that somehow. Let's look at the flat count here as well. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for black. Though black does have some positive flat count differential moves here in the very near future, right here with this capstone, can make some +3 moves. And +3 moves are pretty huge. Actually, +4. That's a +4 move. My bad. All right, so I can see potentially white capturing down maybe on b3 with b4. Black would not be able to immediately renew that. Then white can make this capture over onto e3 with this whole stack and make that two-pronged threat. Then the only defensive move there is tossing this black wall over onto e2. And if you can follow all of that, well done. Congratulations. I probably spoke way too fast. And you can see the pictures that are in my mind. All right, instead, we do see this capstone stack come on over. Interesting. There is no road threat here for white. Unless I'm very mistaken. No, there's no road threat here for white. I am a little confused by the move. Perhaps he's playing for flats already? I know a lot of the top players do play for flats fairly early on in the game. I know NoHat thinks about flats from the very first move. And ManaT has spoken before that he does think about flats a lot throughout the game. I think Reid told me that he thinks about flats when it's getting close to the end of the game and someone's running low. That's when he thinks about flats. And that's kind of where I am. I don't think about flats until the very end of the game, maybe until it's way too late. That's typically what happens with my games. But that is definitely something the top players need to keep in mind, is keeping track of those flat counts throughout that game. Playing here at d3 for black. This does not create an immediate attack threat, but it does cut off white from building that attack threat by placing at d3. We do see the time differential is getting a little smaller now. It's 7.5 minutes for ManaT and 4.5 minutes for Reid, down to 3 minutes between the two of them. Reid's still down there with lower time. Okay, white now building at d2, does not create any sort of tag threat at the moment. There would be a tag threat with a b4 to the right for white. There would also be a tag threat for a b3 to the right. That would also be one. I don't think we're seeing any Tinue opportunities here. This is a tag threat for black, so white is going to have to be responding to this right about now. I think we might see that b4 to the right move finally. That would cut off this horizontal tag threat of black's. But would also potentially give this capstone a stronger position by capturing onto the stack at c4. ManaT taking his time, trying to think how best to respond to this tag threat while also retaining his own positional advantage here. It is tough to say who is in the lead at the moment because they are swapping back and forth. I would give it to white, however, because I feel like white's position is a little bit stronger, though the amount of liabilities underneath of this stack of white is a little troubling, especially so close to a wall. White does have the flat count advantage, I believe, here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there is a +2 flat count advantage for white at this moment. Let's see. How will that change? That is tough to say right here. ManaT is going to have to make a move here pretty soon. He is down to about 5.5 minutes. Just a minute and a half between these two players. Taking his time, making sure he doesn't blow this one. Instead decides to come down with c5, which is interesting. I did not expect that move. I definitely expected a b4 to the right move, since that would have been a tag threat. Not quite sure what the idea behind that move was. Maybe he wants that capstone to move over. The capstone moves over. What does he do? Does he bring that? If this capstone stack moves over here onto c4, will white take the capstone by itself, move it over here onto c3 for the tag threat? I mean, that's just blocked by moving this wall to the right. Filling in. No, yeah, I'm not seeing why c5 minus was better here, but I may be missing something that ManaT is not missing. Because I'm pretty sure that would have worked. Yeah, that would have worked. Yeah, it's hard to say. Hard to say. Can't look inside someone else's mind and see all the tricks. We are only at move 20. Plenty of reserves left for each player. Black coming down with that capstone. Interesting play here. I think we'll likely see a fill here at e4 or maybe c5. Black trying to better his flat count, I believe, by capturing over here, regaining the captives underneath, C4 and C3. That was definitely not my dog barking. Okay, so we do see that capstone moving by itself over here to the right. That is attack threat for white. Coming down, smashing this wall right here onto C2 would be a road for white. Black's going to have to do something about that. Capturing up with B2 wouldn't work because this B4 can come back down for it. Capturing down with A4 would work, but then placing here at A4 would renew that threat. So I think the likely move we're going to see here is, let's see, potentially this capstone moving off to this, or this wall moving off to the side. I don't think the capstone wants to capture down. I don't think that's the move he wants. This is a tough position here for black. I did see that wall move. That is what I was expecting here. I feel like that is the best move that he had available to him. Now, what will white decide to do? I can see placing up here maybe at C5. That might be what he wants to go for because that would retain this vertical threat. But then B1 can come over, or B5 can come over onto C5. Instead, playing down at D1, this does create a horizontal threat for white. Focusing on that horizontal line. Black can come down with this wall and cut that off. Then white would fill in back here at D2. Instead, we see black come over with B1 over here onto C1. That does cut off that horizontal threat. Also starts to cut into that vertical line that white had building. White likely wants to continue placing flats here. Does make that placement at C5. This is nice because it starts building towards this vertical threat and also a horizontal threat up here by placing over here in the E and F file on 5 and 6. Black trying to figure out what to do. Black down to below 1 minute in time. Black only at 45 seconds. ManaT at 4 minutes and 45 seconds. So Reid is definitely thinking quick here, trying to figure out how to come back from this position. He is definitely behind on flats, has to come up with something, and is in solo time. He's got to make these decisions very quickly. Decides to make the capture. I imagine we're going to see a placement over at A4. Or ManaT may decide to take this whole stack and move it up onto B3 to make that vertical attack threat, which would have to be cut off by either B5 to the right or B5 down. Instead, we are seeing this placement here at C2. This does create a vertical threat for white. Capturing over with D1 onto C1 does make a vertical road there. Black does have to make a capture here in order to stop this. Capturing down with this wall would not work. Capturing over with this one would. Decides to capture over with B5 instead. White potentially placing here on the next turn, or deciding to capture over onto C5 to try and make a Tinue pattern on the next move. Does instead build at B5. Knows he can continue to place and not have to worry about black making a road. Black down to just 20 seconds now. Black capturing down. Really tempting for white to take that stack. I think maybe an A4 placement might not be too bad here. Instead places up at b6, ready to continue this vertical threat and allow this stack to capture over onto b4. b2 comes up. I imagine we're going to see this whole stack come up here onto b3 from white. Reid down to 15 seconds. Got to make these decisions quick. White definitely doesn't want this stack to spread up here and ruin his flat count. I imagine this whole stack is coming over, and it does, and that is attacked right here. Black is going to come across likely on b4 since that's basically the only move he's got. Could decide to place a wall right here. Oh, and that's the win. Black didn't see that road threat in time. That is the road for white. Well played, both players. That was really tough. Being so low on time is really tough to come back from, and that's definitely a skill in and of itself. I know that I do not play well with low time, which is why I did not do well in the Blitz tournament. That would be one for Pluto. That would be a question for him, or for NohatCoder. So now that is the end of game 1. ManaT did win as white. Now we will be going over to game 2 with ManaT as black and Reid as white. And here we are with game 2 of ManaT versus Reid. All right, we do see those adjacent corners opening up here. Mirrored opening, as usual. We are seeing this diagonal play from ManaT this time. We don't see this too often because it does open up a spot for that capstone. White instead deciding to drop a flat here, which is interesting. I would have expected a flat here at c3 to continue along this horizontal line. Maybe c3 might work now. Deciding to build the capstone here. This does work as a pretty solid move for a capstone, as it does follow a few of the guidelines. It is mostly central. It does keep this from being isolated. It's not too bad. It is offensive and defensive at the same time, so yeah. Follows a few of those guidelines from the Tech University Capstones video. Black deciding to place over here at e4. We're seeing some interesting sort of staggered play here from black and white. Spreading their pieces out a bit. Looks like they're both going for a horizontal road at this point. The white can quickly shift to a vertical one. Black is more stuck into this horizontal path. Playing over here at e3 does sort of go towards that horizontal line. And we see the capstone drop from black. That's an interesting placement. I'm not quite sure that I agree with that placement for the capstone of black. But it does come over and immediately cut off that horizontal line of white. Now white's just going to keep building for this vertical road. Okay, so we're seeing this sort of capture honeycomb thing going on up here. We do see the c6 placement and then the d6 placement. And then immediately over here, we get this b6 placement, going for that horizontal line for black. e5 being placed now for white, trying to cut off that horizontal line of blacks. Okay, we are getting the 2d3 plus from black now, trying to get into that zone and sort of cut off any sort of horizontal line that white has, and also be part of this horizontal line that black has going on. It's kind of a mess here. It's hard to say who's in the lead. I would say that black looks to maybe have a better positioning here. Neither player has given away any liabilities by doing captures with flat stones yet. All the captures have been with capstones. So that's important to note. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like white play here at d3, filling in, maybe going for this horizontal line. Now they've got the e3 and the c3 there. And they've got this capstone to cut off any horizontal line that the black starts to build. And then the d3 also keeps black from building a vertical line. So that would make a lot of sense to me, playing here at d3. And it seems like it's a little bit abandoning this horizontal line, but I do feel like white's got it pretty under control. Doesn't have to worry about too much in terms of losing to that. Instead, white's going to capture over, and I don't like that move at all because it does allow this capstone to come up on top and get that captive from underneath and be able to liberate the captive and also go towards that horizontal line using the captive at d5 and using the capstone maybe at d6 and start building that two-line way over here off to the side. So I'm not too thrilled about that move. But black, instead of capturing, is going to place a flat stone there, maybe trying to build up that stack first with another black flat before capturing with the capstone to make it a little stronger, make it a little bit of a better position. Or trying to build a connection here off to the side first before capturing up, because then that would be a pretty strong position because it would capture up or over for that horizontal road. And so that would be a TDOA if it didn't have any blocking moves over here to the side, like this f6 coming down, something like that. So something to look out for. Maybe going for something like that, playing here at f5 on the next turn. Okay, Reid taking his time, trying to figure out what to do about that placement, deciding to go ahead and play up at e6. Now that's a solid spot because it does also cut off that horizontal road here at e5 as well, in addition to building horizontally for white at the same time. So black does decide to make that capture finally, getting that big stack, able to liberate that captive on the next turn, either up or over, probably over because that's a much stronger move. The reason it's much stronger is because it blocks this capstone off from getting involved. It's a tough one for white. It's a tough call. I'm not sure what would be the move here. Maybe moving d6 to the left on top of c6 might work. Maybe moving this capstone even up here into c5. It would be a very defensive move, but it might be necessary at this point, now that that capstone has that stack. Alrighty, and white dropping a wall off there to the right. That's actually a pretty smart play. I like that play. It's very defensive, but it also keeps white's capstone where it is, sort of in that central position, able to move along for a vertical or horizontal road with it. So I do like that play. White's going to have to come over onto e6 or e5 with that wall, most likely, to cut that off, because black now does have a tag threat. Capturing over or capturing up would be a road for black. So white does have to respond somehow. If white responds with f5 coming over to the left onto e5, black is likely going to respond by placing here at d4, which would continue that threat. Then continuing that threat, white's probably going to have to bring that whole stack down or move this flat up. So it's tough to say how that will work out, but I'm guessing there we do see the fill in at d4, and that is another tag threat. We're going to see white move this wall or move this flat, either one, capturing here onto e4. Black is in a pretty strong position here. White could also move the capstone, but I'm not sure that that's necessary at this point or even a particularly good idea, so probably not what's going to happen. White is playing all defense at the moment. Alrighty, now we do see that wall come down as expected. Now, black could start to build off here again over at e5. Looks like that's exactly what they're doing. White dropping another wall there. That definitely cuts off all of those horizontal lines that black had going. So now black's going to have to shift their attention to a vertical threat. Instead, building down here, trying to cut off white's own vertical threat that they're building. Okay, so we do see a d3 placement from white, going for that horizontal road threat, also kind of cutting off black's own connection here for a vertical threat. Black's still not able to make any sort of attack threat at the moment. Probably wants to smash this at some point, but he's got a lot of liabilities under there. It's going to be tough to come back from. If he does relinquish those, it's going to have to probably be a game-ending move, or one that builds into a tenuous sequence. Black now building along here for a vertical threat on this side, but also cutting off white's own horizontal line. I liked playing here as opposed to here, because playing here at b4 is just liable to get captured by a capstone, and you've got two flats, one on either side of b4, to come down and capture and cut off that threat at any time. So I do like that positioning a little bit more. We might see an a4 placement here next. We sure do, and that cuts off white from making that horizontal threat just yet. We do see white building around, wants to make a capture in order to make a threat or road at some point, probably wanting to place at f3 next turn. Black may decide to just place at f3 to cut that off. That is one way to go about it. Or black could continue to build down here maybe at b2 or at d2 to further cut off this line. No positive flat count differential moves except for black's capstone. A4 minus from black. Interesting play, because we are going to see an A4 fill, most likely. And I'm not quite sure what black has in mind for that. F3 would make the road, so black's got to do something about that to stop it. I don't know about that A4 minus move. It seems like it has to be a mistake somehow. We do see the wall being placed here at F3, ready to just cut all of that off. White continuing that threat, building down here at E2. Black immediately coming over with that wall, knowing that was going to happen. See another one, and will this wall move over, or maybe throw over here onto C5? No, it wouldn't throw over to C3. It is going to move over, and that's going to stop that threat. White probably building here at C1. And that works two ways. White's got a pretty strong position here. White building at C1 would help continue this horizontal line, but also capturing up and being able to capture over with a D6 to the C6 would be a vertical threat too. So a few options that White has right now. What is he gonna do? White instead of playing over here at E3, filling in, kind of hoping for once he plays the C1, if this wall comes over, maybe he can just fill in at D3 and continue on, but there's still that D4 spot. It's tough to say. Black now building below at B2. Okay, there is the C1 placement from White, as expected. No current attack threat from Black. Looking at possibilities in the future also of White smashing their own wall here. We do see C1 come up and capture. This renews that attack threat over here at F2 and at F3. Placing there would be a road. Black likely going to bring this wall over. If they do bring this wall over, White cannot smash it because that would result in a win for Black. That's the most likely outcome here, I believe, is this wall coming over. White can't currently smash this wall either because that would result in a win for Black as well. Does decide to bring that stack over. What will White do in return? Let's see the flat count, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 for Black. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for White. So Black is up in terms of flat count. White does have fewer reserves, so they control when this game ends. White does not have any opportunities to make any positive flat count differential moves. White just going to keep filling in. Now they are at 11-11. Black does have positive flat count differential moves, so Black is in the lead now. And this game may go to flats, as they both do have some threats budding in the near future, but it is not a guarantee, that's for sure. I see a possibility for white here. White might want to play down here somewhere on this, make an anchor point on this bottom side of the board, or off to the right side of the board, likely the bottom side. Although, yeah, this would work actually maybe better? Hard to say. Maybe playing at f2 would work best. Yeah, playing at f2 would be strong. Then eventually making some sort of capture sequence over here to cut off this threat, this vertical threat, and then smashing this wall. Be a really strong move, and potentially Tinue, I think. If white captures down and this captures over, white would need to drop a wall here. So white may be capturing over with this first, c5 to b5. If black doesn't end up tossing the capstone over, then white would be able to smash this, and I believe that would be Tinue. After a placement at f2, of course. But who knows how black would respond to those particular moves. Black might have been trying to get white to smash this stack and accidentally give the road. But it is basically pinned from smashing that stack at this point. We do see the time for both players is pretty even this game. Last game there was a big gap between their times, but right now they're both sitting around that 8-minute 40, 8-minute 50 mark. ManaT and black taking his time, building over here onto a5. So that does cancel out the opportunity that I was thinking about for white to capture over onto b5 with c5 to stop that. That does stop that from happening. Black is really going to try to build along on this vertical threat, trying to come up with some sort of Tinue pattern here. And building along here to a5 helps, but it also builds the citadel, tough to attack, and keeps white from building any sort of Tinue pattern there. Black may decide to toss this capstone over at some point. White coming over for the capture. That is tricky. We're likely going to see a capture here onto b2 from either b1 or b3. It's hard to say, but he definitely wants to liberate those two captives. And there's no win that he's giving away. There's going to be a wall drop from white after that capture move. It's just hard to say where it's going to go. If he captures down, it's going to go here for sure. Definitely wants to cut that off. Yeah, and so there's going to be a wall placed here. And then he can take this stack and move it across. Drop one flat here, and the last two flats here onto e2, creating that line. I think that's what he wants to do here. I don't know what white was thinking, capturing over onto c2 at that point. Tough to say. Had to know that this capture and then this wall was going to drop, and then this was going to capture over and really put him behind in terms of flat count. Because now we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then if he does make this capture, it'd be 11, 12, 13. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it'd be 13, 8, a plus 5 flat count for black if he makes that move. And so black would be very much in the lead. Not something you want as white. Or is black maybe thinking of tossing this capstone over to threaten that stack? That would be interesting. Very gutsy, too. I kind of like it, though. I'm going to make a note of that. Move 28. Maybe I'll play that out to see how that would work. Oh, he makes it. He does make that move. Ooh, sneaky. I like it. So now if this wall comes up, that is brutal and really tough to deal with because this capstone is going to smash it. And once that capstone smashes it, white would have to bring this capstone over at that point. What can white do instead here? Because white doesn't want to capture now with this wall. That is not what they want to do. But white can smash this wall. And that would be attack threat. Yeah. White smashing this wall would be attack threat. Would not lead to a loss. Spreading up would be a road for white after smashing that wall. White has to be thinking about that opportunity right now. Ooh, that's strong, and it may lead. Oh man, it's really good. It's a really good move. Smashing that may be a Tinue move, but it's hard to say. That would be a really good puzzle. White instead plays there first. I feel like they might be going for this smash, or they're playing there first before they smash on this. I don't know about that. I think that smash might have been a Tinue move, but playing E1 first, I don't know. Black sees that, wants to move that stack away. Yeah, I think that he wanted to smash that. I think that he did. Either way, it would have helped him with his flat count, I think. But white is still pretty far behind in terms of flats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of black. And black has some really strong moves in the future. A +4 move at any point here with this stack moving across. In a tough position. We do see the time difference starting to show now. We get 5 minutes on the clock for Reid, whereas almost 7 minutes on the clock for ManaT. So ManaT is definitely playing a little quicker here. We do see a D5 placement here for white. Not any attack threat at the moment. We may see a placement here of maybe at A2 for black. I feel like that wouldn't be too bad. And I feel like black can cut off what white does here by just bringing this flat from e5 up to e6. And that kind of cancels that out. So I feel like placing at a2 here helps. Yeah, I kind of like that. And let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, a2 would be good because then if this wall ever does come down and he makes that smash, he can start threatening that way as well. Not an immediate threat because you would have to place it f2 first, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities here, I think, for black. White is in quite a bit of trouble. But we do see ManaT's time now down here at 5 minutes, right around the same area as Reid. So they're both matched now in terms of time. ManaT's taking a lot of time on this move, trying to make sure he makes the right one. I don't know why he made that move, moving that wall stack down. Does not make much sense to me at all. Because now he's taken away this positive flat count differential move with this stack, moving it across. He's taken away all of that. He's opened up a tack threat for white. White can now make this tack threat of a vertical line. I feel like that has to be the biggest blunder of the game, unless I'm really missing something. Was there a road threat that I didn't see before that? Smashing this maybe, was that a tinue for white somehow? Couldn't have been, right? Coming over, placing, go down. Maybe. It might have been tinue for white and I just missed it. No. Definitely wasn't tinue for white. I'm very confused. It's a vertical and a horizontal tack threat right now for white. Capturing maybe at d5 would work. Does capture around a d5. White does have that line now built. Didn't go for the smash. Black coming down with the capstone. Black now in trouble, it looks like. I feel like they both had some tinue opportunities here, but I think white may have missed it. I don't know, it's hard to say. I think white missed a couple tinue opportunities. But we shall see. And ManaT was the one who was saying he was going to miss tinue. So, but I don't know if they were actually tinue or not. This is just me trying to think about it on the fly. And I'm not opening it up in PTN Ninja to explore those lines just yet. But this would be a good one to look at in terms of maybe finding some tinue puzzles in this game. A lot of big stacks moving around. Okay, this is a tack threat from white. Goodness me. Capturing over with that stack. Good play. They're both low on time here. This is a tough one. White's probably thinking of a way that they can continue this going because I believe White may want to place here at f3. That would pin this capstone, keep it from smashing the wall once they finally do move this over if they decide to. Which they may need to move that over to make some positive flat count differential moves because they are low on flats. They have just 4 reserves left. And it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 white. Do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 black. So black is in the flat lead right now. White does capture up. That's a good spot. All right, one of you folks who is watching this, go open that up on PTN Ninja and see if you can find where those Tinues are around move 28, I think. Somewhere around there. I think you'll find a few Tinues if you look hard enough. Looking at you, Allie. And if you're watching this on YouTube, ignore all of that since this is not a live stream. ManaT taking his time. ManaT now lower on time than Reid. ManaT almost down to 2 minutes. Reid at 2 minutes 40. We do see the tack threat from black. I think we'll likely see... Ooh, I didn't expect that move. That is a tack threat for white right now. Placing here at f3 would be a road. ManaT may not have expected that. He is down below 2 minutes now. Decides to drop that wall there. This flat count right now might be in favor of white. Let's count this and check out. 10 for black. 10 for white. Ooh, white can keep placing these flats and eventually bring this game to a close. Placing here at d5 is probably a good choice. That does also make a tack threat. Currently no tack threat from black. Decides to bring the capstone over instead. Interesting play. This is a tack threat going that direction. Black likely to cut this off here. I don't think black will place a wall, as he is already behind in flats. One, two, three, four, five. So he would be able to move on top of this and still move it off. Decides to place a wall instead. You're going to see white drop a flat here on d6 that renews that tack threat. Are we going to see e5 plus? That seems to make the most sense right now. Black is in trouble here. Almost down to 1 minute in total time. And white is right about 2 minutes. Moving this stack upwards does still work for black, but it's tough when you're on so little time. Now, this stack is 7 tall, so if he moves, he will be leaving behind one black flat, at least one black flat, and potentially other white flats, but he will have to leave that one black flat behind no matter what. White just filling in, trusting in that flat count advantage right now. We do see Ali in the chat telling me that 30 on move 30, smashing that wall, self-smash from white, was a Tinue, but I'm not sure. I'll have to check it myself. Black does make this capture interesting. I like that capture because that is a road threat for black that white has to respond to here. White responds by moving that wall over. That's a road for black. White made a blunder. Black takes the win by spreading this stack straight up. Ooh, that is rough because white had this one in the bag. I feel bad for Reid there because he had it. It was well fought. It was about to be his win basically. Just a couple blunders here and there. But you know, I don't feel too bad because ManaT was on my fantasy team. Sorry, Reid. He was on my fantasy team. It's your fault for building that fantasy league in the first place, all right? But well played to both players. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, it was a really good match. This second game was really fun. It was very, very tense, very back and forth. A lot of really strong positions. And yeah, it was great. So thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to check out the description at the bottom of this video to see all the TAC resources that we have available to us, including the playtac.com website where you can play folks online. Also, the rules for the game so you can learn it. Check out the videos on my channel for how to play TAC. Check out the subreddit. Especially check out the TAC Discord server, which is the community hub. It's where everybody goes to talk about TAC, find players to play with, where we organize all these tournaments and everything. It's all on that TAC Discord. That is the place to be. If you're unfamiliar with Discord, Discord is a audio and text chatting web application and mobile application, and it's super easy to use, doesn't cost a thing, and you don't even have to download anything if you don't want to. Thanks for checking it out, thanks for watching, and until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.